Bread making and pastry are maybe one of the hardest skills to master in the kitchen, but getting started is definitely not the case. I found this artisan bread recipe online and I immediately had to try it. The only special thing required here is a Dutch oven, and I've seen some people use a glass casserole to achieve the same result, but the cast iron material gives you that amazing crust because it holds and transfers temperature much better than other materials. I did two versions of this recipe because the amount of ingredients are heavily dependent on the size of your Dutch oven. But hey, enough blabbing. Let me show you how to make this. For this specific recipe, I used 4 to 5 grams of instant yeast, 350 milliliters of water, 400 grams of all-purpose flour, 3 pinches of salt, and 3 pinches of sugar. Step number 1 is to warm the water to a little bit more than a room temperature. I would say roughly around 35 to 45 degrees Celsius. Pass your flour to a sift, make sure that there are no lumps and the flour is as fine as it can be. I decided to transfer my warm water into this wooden pot that I have, which is specifically made for kneading dough actually, so it's really convenient to use it for this specific occasion. I added my yeast to the warm water and started incorporating it slowly, and at that point, and this is completely optional by the way, but it's a really good idea to add 2 or 3 pinches of sugar, which will help the yeast activate quicker. I decided to add the flour in 3 batches, so this is 1/3 of the flour going into the mix. I saw some Italian people use a wooden spoon when they mix the dough, so I decided to completely copy their approach. I don't think it really matters, but yeah, whatever floats your boat. Second batch of flour goes in. Then I continue to slowly incorporate as much as I can until it becomes a homogeneous mixture. And you probably noticed that I haven't added any salt yet, because salt and yeast actually don't go well together. And that's why you have to use some of the flour as a barrier that protects the yeast from the salt slowing down the feeding process. The rest of the flour goes in. I left the wooden spoon and switched to a spatula because the dough is forming and it's proving difficult to mix it with the wooden spoon at this point. So yeah, it's a very sticky dough, but that's normal for the water to flour ratio that we use. More flour is going to make the dough more dense, which is not what we want. What we want is nice, airy and fluffy bread. Using the same spatula, I transferred the dough into a separate bowl and covered it with plastic wrap. This will prevent the dough from forming a crust and it will help with the proofing process. I left the dough proof until it doubled in size, and then using a wet hand, I'm going to do a gluten strengthening technique called stretch and fold. It's pretty simple to do. You basically grab one side of the dough, stretch it as much as you can without tearing it, and then you lay it on top. You rotate 90 degrees and repeat until the rest of the dough is done. After that, you cover it again and you let it proof for another 30 minutes. You repeat this whole process 2 more times, And you will easily notice how much stronger the dough gets with each stretch and fold. Now is a good time to start preheating your oven and your cast iron pot alongside with it. Set the temperature to 200 degrees Celsius. Using the spatula, transfer your dough to a lightly floured work surface. Now form the dough into a ball, but do quick movements because otherwise it will stick. Remember that your Dutch oven is hot, so don't touch it with bare hands. And quickly dust the surface of the pot with a little bit of flour. The quicker you do it, the less temperature you're going to lose out of the pot. With one quick movement, grab the dough and transfer it into the pot, close the lid, and bake for 30 to 40 minutes until the dough rises and takes the shape of your pot. After 40 minutes of baking, it's time to check up on the bread and see how it's doing. I pull it out of the oven, remove the lid, and there it is. It's risen, but it doesn't have any color on it. That's why you remove the lid and you put it back into the oven for 20, 30, or even 40 minutes, depending on how much color you like on your crust. After 20 minutes, I pulled it out of the oven and this is the result. Just listen to that. It's fluffy on the inside, and the crust is thin as a glass and incredibly tasty. Now, it's good practice to leave the bread for 1 hour to cool down after you bake it, but I just couldn't help myself. I pulled out a block of butter, and the rest is history. I am addicted to making this bread. I literally make it almost every day, and it's actually cheaper than the store-bought one. It's a no-brainer, it doesn't require any skills, the key is to have a Dutch oven and a little bit of free time. I mean, yeah, it's not sourdough, it's not made with biga or Polish or all the other fancy baking methods, but it still hits the spot. If you have a Dutch oven, you won't be disappointed, trust me. Let me know if you have any questions. As always, exact numbers would be in the description below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!